Salve and welcome back again.
Hello again.
So, there's only two of us tonight because,
Yeah.
well, I got back too late and it's...
Andrew's already in bed, already tucked up, nice and snugly like.
Well, I guess it's it's down to us to see this through. Right, so what are you reading tonight, Matthew?
We're on to number 4. Winds of War number 4. We're down in Morrow tonight with the Dastardly Druge.
You've worked on that, haven't you?
No, I just thought it was quite a fitting opening. I kind of wish I'd been this charismatic with the other ones.
Alright, well, it's a better place to start than there.
Yeah.
Let's rock and roll.
Let us begin. Pool among the rock. Since they first launched their surprise attack against Urizen, the Druge have been pushing westward. Pell-mell they raced through Zenith, leaving devastation in their wake, extinguishing spire after spire, driving the highborn defenders before them. Once darkness had settled over northeastern Urizen, it seemed for a few moments that their thirst for blood might be quenched, but it was not. After a season to regroup and resupply, the Druge continued to pursue the 3 armies of Highguard, pouring down into eastern Morrow in an unstoppable flood, devouring everything in their path. The Highborn did their best, laid down their lives to staunch the flow of orcs, to protect the defenceless citizens, but it was barely enough. The halls of knowledge burned, the temple of the winds returned to ruin, the gardens of Morrow rent asunder, the heart of the Heliopticon broken. By the autumn equinox, the Druge were practically banging at the gates of Canterspire. Yet at the same time, the armies of Dawn and Varushka were banging on the gates of Lomar in Ossium. The Druge advance began to slow. On the last night of the autumn equinox, as the Druge gather in their camps in Perigro and Cayley, the sky turns dark. Heavy black clouds sweep across the magically occluded skies, accompanied by cold winds blowing from the west that neither shake the trees, nor ripple the water, nor billow the curtains in the high windows of the remaining spires. Every mortal in Morrow awakens suddenly, 1 minute after midnight, and as the rain begins to fall, knows something has changed. The rain brings with it a touch of spring magic, and it might be possible to imagine that this is the only effect. The rain shimmers with life, quickly transferring to the streams and high, cool mountain lakes. It is something of a mixed blessing, of course. In a battle where anything short of death can be survived, it is so much easier to fall into the clutches of the Druge. A fate in many ways that can be worse than death. Shortly after that first rainfall, the Druge begin to move again. They come more cautiously than before, solidifying their presence in Operus, manoeuvring carefully through the valleys towards Canterspire. They encounter little resistance. The highborn armies, savaged by months of battling the Druge advance, have been forced to withdraw westward to Astolat and to Cassinia. Worse, a grim sickness settles over the entire territory. First, animals become ill. Cattle provide no milk. Birds stop laying eggs. Next, the crops begin to rot in the fields. Finally, people begin to fall ill. The weak are the first to fall prey to the curse. The old, the young, those who have given in to despair. But at least the spring magic that courses through the water is sufficient to ensure that the injured, at least, are able to recover swiftly before the malediction can take hold. The magicians of Urizen quickly determine that Knave's twisting blight has been laid over the territory, and news from the south suggests that it has been brought to bear in Spiral and Redoubt as well. One more burden for the people of Urizen to face. A little less than a month after the autumn equinox, the Druge army draws within sight of the citadel of Canterspire, forming up at one end of the valley. Observers in the high towers of the great library mark their approach, while below the last few defenders prepare for the battle that is to come. The Druge chant as they come, confident that nothing can stand against them. At the head of their column they drag a dozen captured sentinels, and once they draw within sight of the citadel, they begin to raise vicious wooden spikes. As the defenders of Canterspire watch in horror, the first sentinel is dragged forward. He does not scream, facing his death with poise, and, at the last moment, with a visible sigh, he closes his eyes and collapses into dust. A ripple of uncertainty runs through the Druge. A second sentinel is seized, and the same thing happens. Between one breath and the next, the remaining prisoners each close their eyes and are gone, dust and ash on the wind. Murmurs of uncertainty swell and roll across the Druge army. Their cheers and jeers fall silent, but only for a moment. Denied their sport, their thoughts turn quickly to overrunning Canterspire, sating the hunger for torment on the Urizen within. At this moment, as the Druge begin to pour down the valley towards the great spire, the first rays of the rising sun touch the highest point of the tallest tower. The ramparts glitter, like frost at dawn, like crystal. A rumbling bass note rings out like thunder, but instead of dying away, it continues, becoming louder and louder. The shimmering light flows down the tower, quickening and spreading as races down, coating the towers and walls, the libraries and auditoriums of Canterspire in a sheath of beautiful pale pink and gold crystal. It swirls and eddies in place, creating baroque curlicues and protrusions somewhat reminiscent of deep-sea coral. Within the span of a handful of minutes, the entire great citadel is a blazing tower of luminous crystal and glass. Clinging to the side of the crystal walls are a dozen great beasts, larger than oxen, roughly lizard-like in outline. They are composed of translucent prismatic crystal. They move effortlessly across the crystal walls on 8 massively taloned legs, snapping prehensile tails tipped with vicious arrowhead spikes, opening wide crocodilian jaws to reveal row after row of razor-sharp welts of teeth. Turning their great saurian heads left and right, they begin to sing out a warning, terrible musical calls that rise and fall like waves on the shore. Light spills from them, illuminating whatever they turn their gaze upon, stripping away deception and obfuscation, banishing the early morning mist, and leaving the Druge nowhere to hide. At the same time, horns begin to blow. The gates of Canterspire, rather than being kept tight shut against the Druge, are flung wide. Marching out from the courtyards and the halls of Canterspire come the Citadel Guard, nearly 5,000 sentinels and battle mages of Urizen, accompanied by a cohort of elfin war witches. Spire and moon standards snap viciously in the early morning wind alongside the crimson and gold banners of the Queen of the Fields of Glory. They are not alone. From the valley behind, surging around the sides of the crystalline Canterspire, march the armies of the Empire. To the east, the Iron Helms and the Northern Eagle, grim-faced Varushkans. Alongside them marches an entire third army of summer warriors, golden hawks and eagles mingling with the flock of black carrion birds that hang above them like a cloud. To the west, the Tower Jacks and the Wolves of War, splendid soldiers of the League reinforced by a contingent of Temeshwari mercenaries and deadly wagon raiders from Karov and Volodmarts, and supported by potent enchantments of day and autumn magic. The Druge charge falters. The leaders of the eastern orcs are quick to reappraise their situation, changing their orders as the two great forces move together in the rocky valley below the Canterspire. As the two waves of soldiers break one against the other, though it is clear the Druge were expecting to face a defensive force, not a half-dozen Imperial armies on the offensive. Their tactics rely on outmanoeuvring and surrounding their enemy, and that is not what they have found. Yet while the Empire may have the element of surprise, the Druge still outnumber them. There are nearly half again as many orcs as humans fighting at the Battle of Canterspire, but the presence of the Knights of Eleonaris and the Crystal Guardians that protect the Citadel help to even the odds. The Empire fights conservatively, providing as few openings for the Druge as possible, withdrawing rather than risk losing soldiers to risky charges. Injured soldiers fall back to the crystal halls to be healed and to rest for a few moments before rejoining the fray. There are a few chances taken here. The Druge strategy is savage, but not as much as it had been in previous seasons. They are more cautious for the most part. Perhaps news of the attack on the north has undermined their confidence. Shortly after noon, as exhaustion begins to drape itself like a dusty cloak over both sides, it begins to rain. Not a heavy downpour, but a light misty drizzle that focuses the refreshing power of the spring magic that provides a gentle blessing to all of Morrow. Both sides rally, regroup, and press their attack again. While it is refreshing, it is still rain. The dry river valley is quickly churned up into a field of treacherous mud that endangers human and orc alike. All it takes is a single misstep, and all is over. As the sun begins to vanish behind the western peaks, a ragged cheer goes up from the Imperial side. A small force of sentinels have managed to skirt around the Druge force, using the high passes to manoeuvre themselves beyond the sight of the orcs, and launch a daring rescue. 36 prisoners are freed from the Druge baggage train, escorting to the safety of Canterspire. The Crystal Guardians raise their heads in a great triumphant chorus as the ragged band reaches the gate. 30 prisoners is nothing in the grand scheme of things. Barely a fraction of the Imperial and Orc bodies that litter the muddy gorges around the citadel. But it is a powerful symbol, a promise of what is to come. Night falls, but not darkness. The crystal citadel begins to glow, as if its walls were infused with pure sunlight. Beams of light focused by the Crystal Guardians sweep back and forth across the valley, illuminating the Druge as they attempt to fall back. The Saurian protectors continue their song of triumph as the orcs withdraw. Here and there across the battlefield, peculiar pale figures in dusty black armour move hither and yon, pausing for a moment to speak to the fallen. At first they are mistaken for healers, but it shortly becomes clear that they are the servants of the eternal Kayla, harvesting those close to death for the grim legion of their mistress. Thanks to the magic of spring, there are few enough on either side, and the Lady of the Silent Host gains few new converts to her side. Over the next month, Imperial and Druge forces clash again and again on the cold mountains of Morrow, but not in the valley before the Canterspire. Inch by inch, the orcs of the Malum are forced back out of Ophrus by Imperial armies. No quarter is asked for or offered on either side. The spring benediction helps preserve life, but still the war claims over 1,000 human lives, and as many orcs fall as Imperial. The Canterspire remains a beacon in the heart of Morrow, offering sanctuary to any who can reach it. While the armies strike at the Druge, smaller groups of sentinels and magi move quickly among the high places that the Druge are unaware of. Accompanied by brave heralds of Phaleron, they seek out citadels and spires behind enemy lines, helping to evacuate the people and their valuable libraries to the Crystal Sanctuary. While the Saurian protectors will not leave the castle, they possess supernatural senses that allow them to mark the approach of the enemy, no matter how stealthy, and raise a warning. The gates of Canterspire do not close again, remaining open. Another symbol, another promise. The Druge lose their foothold in Ophrys and are harried in both Perigro and Cayley. As the winter solstice draws near, the Empire pushes into Cayley. Again and again the Malamorks are forced to fall back. The victory does not come without grief, however. The spire of the Arbiter's seat is liberated, but its halls are discovered to be empty of human life. The captured citizens, facing torment and enslavement at the hands of the Druge, with no hope that the Empire would turn back the Orcs, chose to accept Kayla's gift. The entire populace passing from life to death in a single night. The Druge left their ashes where they fell. The broken crater where the heart of the Heliopticon once stood is reclaimed. The devastation wrought by the defenders leaves no sign of what was once the grandest tower of the network. The burnt ruins of the Gardens of Morrow are liberated, but not a single plant remains. Yet, for all that loss, the Empire is winning. The Druge are in retreat across the territory. They are not broken, but for the first time since they invaded Zenith, they have not been victorious. Perhaps, just perhaps, this is the end of the Druge invasion of Urizen. Perhaps.
Perhaps. Well, hot diggity.
Urizen are so cool when they fight. Wow.
Wow.
That was a really good win.
That was. Do you know what I liked? I liked the Sentinel, you know, letting out a sigh and then closing his eyes and turning to dust. Oh, that was imagery right there. All right, well, that's going to be it for us reading. One thing that we did mention in the last videos, but I am going to mention now, if you click on the link that we've put with every video, if you click on there, you'll find the game information of what, you know, it elaborates a little bit more. Yeah. We're not going to read that, you know, that's for you to go and have a look. We're just telling the stories of what's there. But please click, have a look. It's good information to know.
Yeah. I'm only reading the flavour text because that's the interesting bit that most people will skip over. Usually they just go to the game information.
Yeah.
So yes, the link is there. Go and read the wiki as well. And we will be back for another one shortly.
All right.
Bye.
See you in the next one. I got it this time. Bye-bye.